Have you ever just sat back and thought to yourself, who's running the video game industry? I mean, actually, who's running the industry? Is it the developers? Is it the publishers? Is it the customers? Clearly, no, it's not us, at least not anymore. But today we're going to shed some light onto who is actually pulling the strings on what games get made, the prices of the gaming industry, and in fact, what those kinds of companies are wanting to do to you practically every single day. And that is to rake you over the coals and squeeze out every dollar from your back pocket. Fun, I know. You see, though, I grew up at a time when gaming was at its infancy in the 80s and even early 90s. Yeah, if the gray beard didn't fool you, I'm basically what the kids call an unk. And clearly, that's really not a big deal for me. I don't mind growing up with a hobby like video games, because back then, you were ostracized for it. If you were caught playing video games, you were made fun of, and people really didn't like you until gaming went mainstream. And when it got mainstream, that's where things really took a turn. Live service games out the wazoo every single time. Every company, every developer, every publisher chasing a trend that one company bucked and then created an entire landscape for, basically going around and having clones of everything. Remember Doom clones? That was a thing. World of Warcraft clones? That was another one. Everybody no longer having their own idea on what a game should be, just copying everybody else to make a quick buck. And they're still doing it to this day. Now every game has to be an extraction shooter with a battle pass, a monetization plan, a live service strategy, any way to squeeze out money from you. You see, back in the day, if you didn't like a game, you'd close your wallet, and that would be the end of it. That company wouldn't last much longer, that industry wouldn't grow, and that game that you didn't like wouldn't have a sequel, because clearly it didn't meet the appeal of everybody to buy the video game. But unlike back then, right now, your dollar doesn't really mean much anymore. In fact, they don't want just $1, they want every single dollar out of your back pocket. And the more insidious part about all of this isn't the fact that the industry is listening to you as a customer. It's the fact that they're listening to all the wrong people. And that is what's making everything go to hell in a handbasket. Because according to IGN, a Bank of America analyst has weighed in on the GTA 6 conversation, stating that the game should retail for $80 in the hopes of raising the price point for the entire industry. Yeah, we're not talking about other publishers. We're not talking about other CEOs. We're not talking about the industry itself. We're talking about direct outside forces walking into the actual gaming industry and saying, hey, you know what would be really cool, by the way, if the fact that we bought all these stocks in your company made us actual shareholders, and then we get to dictate what you do and how much you charge to the customers you're trying to sell your game to. And wouldn't it be super cool if, like, I don't know, maybe the biggest gaming event in quite some time were to release as Grand Theft Auto 6, because we know all the normies will buy that game and buy the new consoles for it and spend all their money just to play that one title. Wouldn't it be like super swell and awesome if you raised the price of that video game to $80 and then made it easier for the entire gaming industry to also raise the price of their games to $80? That way we can make all the money off of everybody's sales. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Yeah, that'd be so great. Actual insanity. The fact that there are outside market forces trying to dictate what happens in the gaming industry. And you know as well as I do, more than everybody else, that every single person inside of that actual industry, whether publisher or the developer or even outside analyst, is dying, itching, waiting for any opportunity to raise the price of video games again. And I say again for a specific reason. We saw game prices increase from $60 to $70 not 6 years ago when this gen actually started. And what did we get? Did we get less microtransactions? No. Did we get less battle passes? Absolutely not. Did we have to pay for online? Of course you do. We got $70 video games giving us the exact same or sometimes even worse performance than we had the previous generation for it. Oh, absolutely astounding to me. And now they want Grand Theft Auto 6 and 2K to charge $80 for video games, so every other single publisher, investor, and analyst can say, you know what? GTA 6 sold 40 bajillion copies at $80. Your game can too. And clearly, nobody knows what the f they're talking about. Having an industry completely inept and incapable of understanding what the price of what a market will bear is actually absurd. Watching as every other analyst is begging, pleading on their hands and knees, praying for any other video game besides Mario Kart World to charge $80 to validate that price purchase across the entire board and milk you, and not the fun way with the finger in the back end, like actually milking your wallet in every single aspect to make you pay more for a product that you know isn't worth the plastic it's printed on. This ridiculous, insane, overreaching, overarching behavior of the industry is exactly where it's going to lead to the next downfall, literally pushing the entire bottom row out of the industry itself and saying, if you can't afford the prices we want to pay, you're just not going to enjoy video games at all. And instead of things actually reducing in price because we're no longer paying for logistics, no longer paying for shipping fees, no longer paying restocking fees, and all the money's being directly made by that actual company for being all digital, no, instead we're paying more money now for even less product. No actual case, no game on the disc, everything has to be downloaded, no manual, no registration card, nothing at all in any way to give you any ownership, yet they're wanting to charge you even more money. But there's even more, because IGN even said this. And here's where things get really wild. According to Seeking Alpha, Omar Dasuki of BOFA Global Research came away from last week's Icon conference, which IGN attended, with a firm recommendation that GTA 6 should be $80, $10 more than the norm. Analyst opinions on GTA 6 prices are all over the place, with some saying Rockstar should stick with $70 and others saying it could easily justify going up to $100, depending on what the company does with the next iteration of GTA Online. GTA 6 is on course to be the biggest entertainment launch of all time, selling tens of millions of copies on day one. It will undoubtedly change the video game industry forever, not just in terms of how many financially successful games can be, but in terms of how much money video games should cost going forward. That's right, you thought you had control as a customer and a consumer? You don't. You have no say, you have no opportunity, you have no actual ability to voice your concern or your reason or even your disdain and disgust at what the industry is doing to you, the person whose money they want more than anything. These companies are now fighting between every analyst, every shareholder, every person in between, realizing what GTA 6 can be, a massive cash cow opportunity for them to go ahead and inflate the pricing of the gaming industry overall, and they're all dying to make it happen, ready and willing, because you know what? The line is not enough for them. If it's going to be $80 next year, they want $90. The year after that, $100, and then it's going to keep rising every time, because it's never enough for these companies. It's never enough for these shareholders, and every other outside force dumping their money into the gaming industry is now trying to coerce other publishers and developers to move in that direction. And what'll they say? Well, yeah, that makes sense because we need to make money too. Game development costs are rising, and the only way we can offset this is by charging you, the customer, even more, rather than trying to find other ways of reducing those costs. I don't know, maybe limiting scope or not having a $50 bajillion budget for a video game as trying to make it an actual fucking movie in the first place. And then watching as every other outsider, influencer, or even analyst goes around telling these companies what to charge, and then listening to these actual people as well and you over every single time. But hey, there's even more though, because the mask keeps slipping. With the article also saying, and it was this later point that Dasuki touched on in his comment, saying that if GTA 6 were to cost $70, video game companies would no longer be able to get away with charging more than that for their games. That would put pressure on the likes of Nintendo, for example, which charges $80 for Mario Kart World. We also heard from attendees that the industry, which is perceived as struggling, would have difficulty selling games for $80 if GTA 6 came out at $70. Dasuki is quoted as saying, "We think it's in Take-Two's self-interest as a publisher and partner to many developers to raise the price point for the entire industry." The actual insane manipulation being done by all of these analysts, by Bank of America. Like, who are you to tell what video game companies should even do in the first place? Why are you, as an analyst, so interested in what's going on in the video game space? Oh, I know why. Because it's an easy cash cow for your bankers to go ahead and inject money into to then see a return on that investment. They don't care about games. They don't care about the consumer. They don't care about any of that. All they're looking for is saying, whoa, there's dollar signs here, boys. We can make a killing off of this thing. If this company charges 10 more bucks and sells way more copies than last time, we'll make a ton of money on the back end from buying all those shares of stocks, because you know that thing is going to balloon to the actual fucking moon, baby. Woo! That's all this is. Talking about the health of the gaming industry, oh, I don't know. The fact that we've seen record lows of game console sales and game sales ever since this last November, which is the peak buying performance of the actual industry itself. Golly, boy, it's so fucking healthy right now. The fact that less games are being purchased overall. More studio closures than ever before. More layoffs than ever before in the gaming industry. All at the same time, watching indie and AA games charging less money for their products, by the way, selling more units because they're charging less money, and even then becoming bigger hits overall in the gaming space by sweeping entire award shows. I wonder what's going to be the better call for a lot of people. Charging more money and selling less, or charging a little less money and selling way more units. Oh, guys, if Take-Two doesn't charge $80 for their game, then how is Nintendo going to charge $80 for any other game? How about this? They shouldn't charge $80 at all. Games should go back to being, drum roll please, $50. Oh, I said it, and I know I'm going to hear the entire arguments online. But Alex, what about inflation of the actual dollar? The price has to go up. It hasn't gone up in 20 years since then. Look, I'll tell you this right now. If the company isn't paying for logistics, shipping, manufacturing, production, and everything else, and making a killing by selling everything digitally while going around and scraping the 30% off the top from every other game being sold, clearly there's money to be made, and you don't have to do it at a higher price point. I don't know, maybe offer more value to your customers instead. We don't control shit in this gaming industry. We're literally here trying to grab any game we possibly can to entertain ourselves for just a few hours every other day. And I say that as an older elder emo millennial. Yeah, oof, knees are cracking like Rice Krispies treats every time I get up. And you know what's crazy? The dude who's probably the second greediest person in the gaming industry, next to Bobby Kotick, had this to say about charging $80 for GTA 6. As reported by IGN, Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick told an audience at Icon, "Consumers pay for the value that you bring to them, and our job is to charge way, way, way less of the value delivery. How you feel about something you buy is the intersection of the thing itself and what you pay for. Consumers need to feel like the thing itself is amazing, and the price they were charged was fair for what they got." Saying, quote, "If you look at it through that lens, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that isn't the lens through which we look. Instead, we look at how do we deliver something amazing? How do we make sure that what people pay for feels very reasonable?" The entire industry is in fact a racket, and one of the worst ones I've ever actually seen. Watching someone like Strauss Zelnick from Take-Two say, "Hey, we got to be reasonable with the prices here, folks, because if it's too much money, they're just simply not gonna buy it." And then the bank's turning around and saying, charge more money to make it easier for other companies to charge more money. Think about the insanity of this. The greediest companies on earth don't operate with this much malice in their heart against you for someone who just wants to buy and play a video game for a couple of hours every day. The gaming industry is absolutely due for a financial And I really do feel like increasing the price of games to $80 will absolutely speed up that process. And the 2020s to 2023s were actually one of the catalysts to really make this happen. The line went up astronomically, and instead of companies seeing it as a blip, as a small space in time, they saw it as the new standard. And that's where they want to go. They want to make sure that the line goes up exponentially, even though the market cannot bear those prices. People cannot afford those costs. And they're going to do one thing and one thing only. They're going to cut out the one piece of joy that they have in order to survive the next day. And that is why these companies don't fucking get it. Here's my deal. I'm not going to buy GTA 6, even when it hits PC. I'm not going to buy a PS5 for it. I'm not going to buy an Xbox console for it. I simply have no real actual need or want to play Grand Theft Auto. I kind of see it as a bit rote, honestly, and actually kind of boring. I know. Maybe I'm the only one. But this industry has no idea what they're doing, and they're clearly listening to the wrong people. And the crazier part is having someone like Strauss Zelnick be the actual voice of reason in a space right now that wants nothing more than to squeeze blood from a stone out of every single user. And that is a truly terrifying thing about all of this. But here's what I'm going to request from everybody as well, and what I'm going to actually live on to on my own. Any video game that is $80, I'm simply just not going to buy. Hell, even $70 games, I simply don't even really buy anymore, unless it is actually something that is good, reviewed well, and my colleagues and friends actually enjoy. Instead, what I'll do is I'll buy a game for $50 that I know is made by a developer that actually cares about the medium, cares about my experience, and wants me to have an actual enjoyable time. Games like E33, even games like Oblivion Remastered at $50 as well, or finding other ways to spend less money in this hobby, because clearly all they're trying to do is ring me for every buck that they have. And I think what's going to happen is they're going to learn a real hard lesson real fast, that the gaming industry and the people that support the hobby aren't the cash cows that they think they are. But you know what? I want to hear what you guys got to say about this in the comments section down below. What's the most amount of money you'll ever spend on a video game? What's the max you'll spend? What's the least amount of money you'll spend? And will you be getting GTA 6 when it comes out? I want to hear what you got to say. If you want to see more of this kind of content though, subscribe to the channel and also check out the daily streams coming this week as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great one, and I'll see you next time.